Women are powerful creators. The Align Women podcast features female entrepreneurs, leaders, and other professional women who've demonstrated agency and innovation in their personal and professional lives. I'm your host, Amy Evans. I have authentic, intimate conversations with my guests that highlight their paths to success, their struggles and accomplishments, and the things that currently excite, motivate, and inspire them to turn their visions into reality. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Align Women podcast. I'm Amy Evans. I'm your host, and I'm the founder of Align Women, which is the leadership and networking organization for professional women. The podcast features female entrepreneurs and leaders and other professional women who've demonstrated agency and innovation in their personal and professional lives. And with me today is Ursula Garrett. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Agenda E, and she's a CPA, an author, and a mentor who helps entrepreneurs build empires one asset at a time. We met earlier this year through LinkedIn, and I immediately connected with her spirit and her drive to teach entrepreneurship to young people. Welcome, Ursula.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. So I want to get right into these wonderful questions so we can learn more about you. I have heard you say that being an accountant is more than just taxes and financial statements. And getting to know you, I would definitely describe you as a passion-driven CPA. You love helping people use their passions to make a living, which I would say is the new American dream, being able to figure out what your passions are and then being able to figure out how to make a living from them. Tell me about how you do that work and maybe give an example of someone that you've led through the process of identifying their passions and then figuring out how to make a living from doing that.
Oh, absolutely. So over this month makes 20 years that I've been working as a CPA, that I've had, I shouldn't say just working as a CPA, but that I've had my own practice. So I'm celebrating 20 years.
Congratulations.
And the one client that stands, obviously I have, lots of clients that I've worked with over the last 20 years. And when I say being a CPA is more than just the numbers, you have to think of it as I'm like the internal doctor for your business. Like I'm the internist. I see your business from the inside out, because you have to give me all of the details for me to be able to help you to create financial statements, to prepare your tax returns, to do tax projections so you know what the end result is. And so by having this experience of working with all these businesses from the inside out, over the 20 years, I've gained lots of experience on how that translates into helping a business become profitable.
Right. And you get to bring your experience, which is 20 years running your business, but a lot more life experience and perspective, yes, to give her the framework to see how all of that is possible. I think a lot of people have lots of great ideas and lots of passion, but don't necessarily know how to apply the practicality to it to make it a functional business and make it a living. And that really leads into my second question for you, because you've done that. You've managed to combine a business that has both passion and practicality for yourself. And then you've created a business called Agenda E because you were working with entrepreneurs and you saw a need that you knew you had the ability to fill. So tell me about how that evolved and what kind of entrepreneurs you work with and what kind of tools you provide to them to help them along that path like you did with your daughter.
Okay. So Agenda E, as you've said, it was designed specifically to help entrepreneurs create their empires. And this is for new and especially young entrepreneurs that are just coming into the business. Since I've been helping businesses over the years, these are already successful business. They're growing, they're dynamic, and they've been around for a while. They can afford to pay me a steep advisory fee, but most new businesses can't afford that. They're just trying to get their business off the ground. They're not going to go spend $10,000, $25,000 for somebody to come in and help them get started. So, but I got entrepreneurs coming in to see me all the time, and they couldn't afford to pay me to do all the things they needed to have done. So I would do the basic for them and give them checklists for them to follow through, and they had to do it themselves. So that's why I developed the training programs to help entrepreneurs that did not have deep pockets so that they could get the individualized training, but they could be trained in a group setting. And so what the programs in Agenda E are designed to do is to help those new business owners, those entrepreneurs, get past the first 5 years. You know, when 80% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years, that's not a very good track record. That's not a very good statistic. And you want to be on the other side. You want to be on the 20%. And so that's what the program is designed to do, to help entrepreneurs get past the first 5 years so that they can have a successful business. And so it starts off with making sure, because we were talking about passions earlier, that not every good idea, not every passion is a good business. So the first thing we want to do is make sure there's a viable business. And then we go through the checklist of making sure the business gets set up right, so it does not fall into some regulatory hell where they can't get out of, and it ends up costing them more money and having to shut down because they didn't pay their payroll taxes on time. They didn't pay their income taxes on time. You don't want to get bogged down by the things that you must do because you didn't know, because ignorance is no excuse when it comes to any kind of taxes. And so then the next step is, okay, now that you got your business started, how do you get clients? How do you grow your business? How do you get the right people involved in helping you to grow your business? Making sure that you have enough funds. One of the main reasons that a lot of businesses fail in the first 5 years is because they're underfunded. You don't want to start something and use all of your savings to build the business, and then you don't have any money to live off.
Right.
And so what you end up doing is pulling more money out of the business to live on when you really need that money to run your business. So there are all kinds of things. And yeah, as an accountant, I'm going to look at it more from the financial aspect of it, but I'll also take a look at marketing. One of the biggest part of creating an empire, I always say creating an empire one asset at a time, is that you do have to build and create your assets. You have to protect the assets that you don't even think about. Your reputation is one of the largest. So you want to protect your reputation, not just in your local community, but in your online community. So there are all different kinds of assets, intangible and physical assets, that you're going to need to create and protect. And that's one of the things that they get from my training program, is because income follows assets. If you don't have assets, how are you going to earn income?
Sure.
Something as simple as your name or your slogan,
Mm-hmm.
your logo, those are all valuable things. Because let's say you do build up your business and now your exit strategy is to sell within 5 years, but you didn't protect those intangible assets. You go to sell and you find out somebody else owns the right to your name, or somebody else owns the right to your logo. Now your business isn't worth as much as you thought it was going to be. And here you thought, oh, I'm going to sell that business in 5 years and take that money and I'm going to buy a big house, or I'm going to retire, do whatever.
Right.
So those assets need to be protected. And they also need to be considered when you're creating assets, is your website. How much traffic do you have coming to your website? Do you know that websites actually have a value? There's a website you can go to and you can put in your URL and it tells you the value of your website. And so that's an asset that you can build up so that your business is worth more in value, because now your website is worth more. Everybody has a website, but not all websites are valuable.
Right.
So there you go.
So it sounds like what you're bringing to entrepreneurs are two very important things. One, you're helping them to know the things that they don't know, which is a
Exactly.
scary part of starting a business. I think there's something I need to know here, but I don't know what I don't know. And you're providing a way for them to get that information.
Exactly.
And you're also compressing time, which is the only asset that we all have that we can't make any more of.
Exactly.
We all share the same amount of it. So you are providing a platform and checklists for entrepreneurs to spend less time on the things that are working in the business and more times working more and giving them more time to work on the business, which
Exactly.
for an entrepreneur just starting out is
Mhm.
super valuable. And it sounds like you have drilled down even one level further to create a program for teenagers now. And I'm really interested to hear about this, because the way you described it to me was a program that teaches teenagers and young adults how to earn money by using their cell phones to operate a business.
Yes.
And that sounds both super modern and super interesting to me. So how did you get involved in that, and why is that important to you, and what does that program look like?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I've worked with teens and young adults for years. You know, I would always go to the schools and talk to them about financial literacy. And I was a part of an organization called American Association of University Women. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, but they have a program called Tech Trek. And Tech Trek was started in California, and now they've actually exported Tech Trek to all the other states to the AAUW. And what Tech Trek is, it's a program to help young girls in STEM.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is science, technology, engineering, math programs, because that's where young girls start to fall off right at about middle school age. So this program takes girls that are somewhere between the 7th and 8th grade year to a math and science camp on a college university for a week. And I started doing that years ago, where I was the dorm mom with these kids, with these girls. And some of these young girls are absolutely amazing. And I would teach a financial literacy course at the Tech Trek camp. And I had this one girl, and this is the one that really sparked my interest in this one young girl. When we were getting to know each other at the beginning, you had to tell 2 things that were true about yourself and 1 thing that was false. And everyone else in the group had to guess which one was false. So one of her truths were, I'm a fashion designer. And everybody thought that that was her fault. Unanimously, everybody in the group, 11 of us, well, the other 10 of us, all thought that was her fault, and that was her truth. So at 12 years old, she was running a store on Etsy, where she would buy t-shirts, and she would shred the sleeves and bling them out, put glitter and rhinestones and whatever, all these different designs. And she would take pictures of it and post it on Etsy. And she did other accessories and things where she would put her own personal touch. And this girl had also expertly managed inventory management. And she didn't keep any of this stuff on hand other than the stock that she used to take pictures of to post. So when you would go on Etsy and you would order one of her designs, she'd run out to Walmart, buy the t-shirt, and she'd make whatever design. So she would have already collected the money and used that money to buy the product that she would then send to you. So she didn't have to keep inventory on hand. And this is what she was doing at 12 years old. She was an entrepreneur at heart. And I'm thinking, if this young girl can do it at 12 years old, you can't tell me that other teenagers can't do that. And this had to be, I want to say this has been 2012. So we're talking about 7 years ago. But this young girl still sticks in my mind. And she's what I use as the encouragement when I work with other young people. And so what the program I'm designing to do, because it can be kind of discouraging. You see these teenagers and they're walking, they can't even see where they're going because they're looking down at their phones. It's like another appendage. They're permanently attached, and their eyes are glued to their phones. So I wanted to find a way for these kids to still be excited about their phones, but doing something other than playing games and playing around on social media. A lot of these kids are very interested in making money. Well, they want money, whether or not they're interested in making, but that's when they're most creative and most imaginative and most innovative, is when you're young, before we've had a chance as adults to spoil it completely and take away all their imagination. And I'm thinking, if I can get them thinking about how can I make money using just my phone, then that's going to give them another use for those cell phones. And that's going to help not just them, but help society overall, because their innovations, their creativity is going to be, it's going to be fostered so that they can do more and they will think more and they will want more. So when they start young, then there's nothing getting in the way of them making changes in the future. Can you imagine if someone like, say, Elon Musk, if somebody was telling him, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, how much more he could have done? Like, he's done so much and he's doing so much and he thinks he could change everything in the world.
Yep.
But imagine if that's what he was being told even back then, when maybe he was, and maybe that is why he's doing all that.
Right.
But if somebody's already self-motivated and then they get encouragement,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any stopping them. So I see it as only a win-win-win for the world, that these young kids are encouraged at a young age to develop, to innovate, to create.
I totally agree with you that demonstrating the possibilities is a huge part in opening up what they see as possibilities for their own lives. And that leads us to another question I had for you. I asked you about one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn, and your answer so resonated with me. Just because a job pays doesn't mean that you should do it, and that resonates for me both on a human level, but certainly as a woman, seeing other women in jobs where they're miserable, but in a financial position where they don't see the possibilities beyond just making the paycheck to make ends meet. And tell me about how you learned that lesson and what it's like to see particularly young women today having so many more opportunities than women in previous generations.
Well, I'm going to tell you that was a very hard lesson learned for me, because I was a teen mom. So when you start as a teen mom, you have to, you're a parent when you're a teenager, you're still growing and learning, but now you have to figure out, how am I going to support this child? And actually, by the time I was 20 years old, I had 2 children. So I guess I was a teen mom of 2. So I had to take a lot of jobs. I did a lot of jobs, and some of them were absolutely soul draining, but they paid the bills. So when I got into a position where I didn't have to take a job just because it paid well, I had the option of taking jobs that I liked. It took me a while to get through college and get my degree so I can go on and make my own choices. And I have left jobs that paid well because they just didn't feed my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to enjoy what I do so that when I came home, I was happy. It made me a better parent. It made me a better spouse. It made me a better friend. It just made me a better person overall. And you've probably met people, and you may have felt like this in your life, where you took a job because you had to pay the rent. You had to eat, but you hated it. And you felt like you were aging, you were growing old, or you felt sick, and you were coming up with any excuse so that you didn't have to go to that job, or you had to talk yourself every morning and to give yourself a pep talk. You could do it just one more day. And so it became getting through each and every day. Now, what I see with young people now is they have so many more opportunities, so many more options as to what, especially for women, what they can and what they will do. The one thing that I found about millennials, because I do research on all age groups and potential clients and prospects, is millennials now, the fact that they even see this, they don't want debt, because student loan debt is enough. So they don't want to own homes. So we have our baby boomers ready to sell and ready to sell and maybe move into senior communities, move into small downsize. But our millennials aren't coming into the house buying market. They're not interested in the debt. They're traveling, and they're having 2 to 3 tax homes, so they're not stuck in one country. And when I say tax homes, I'm talking about different countries, not just different states. And so that's where the opportunity is. They see the value in experiences, not in things.
Yes.
And I wish it was more like that when I was young, where the value is in the experiences, not so much the things that you owned.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in the generation where the more you own, the better. So you have to have a big house. The bigger, the better. Buy the biggest house you can afford to pay for, even if you have to struggle, and eventually it'll be worth it. That's what I was always told. But that's not necessarily the best thing. So you have the big house and then somebody has to clean it. And I got to tell you, even my father-in-law said to me that I was a shitty housekeeper. So don't worry about it. I don't like the housekeeping. I'm in a position now where I could pay somebody to do the housekeeping for me. And that was my goal. The things that you don't like to do, you should have somebody else do it. A lot of people don't like doing accounting. If that's not your area of expertise, that's what I do. So you have to think of your business in the same way that you think of your personal life. If you don't like doing it, have somebody else do it. I don't like mowing the lawn, so my husband does it. You know, all the things. Somebody else do all the things that you don't like to do. And that's where I see the young people today. They get that better, much better than I did. And I think others in my generation did. That live your life now, because tomorrow is not promised. But that gives us all hope for the future when these people know what they want. These young people know what they want when they're young. They're not going to grow old with regrets, because how many people die on their deathbed said, I wish I had owned a bigger home. I wish I had owned a nicer home. That's not what people regret when they die.
Nope.
And so this generation to me seems to be the smartest of all the generations. So I love the millennials and the generation that's coming after them. And what generation is that? Is it Generation Z?
I think I'm not. It's a couple different names. I mean, I'm all the way back in Generation X, which I think maybe you are too. So
yes, the Gen X.
But it's really fun to hear you talk about the inspiration and the possibility that you see in the younger generations, because a lot of times I think the opinions about them are clouded by the boomers and the Gen Xers that are a little frustrated and maybe even a little jealous about what these newer generations have the capability to accomplish. And it's fun to hear you speak so admiringly and passionately about them and want to give them the tools to take sort of the internal energy that they have and that wide-eyed optimism and actually give them the tools to turn that into something productive and profitable. I love that.
Absolutely.
So tell me about, I want to wrap up by hearing about your book. I am so impressed that you wrote one. I believe you're working on another one, if that's right. And I want to hear about that. What inspired you to write a book? What's the first one about? What's the second one about? And we'll close with that.
Okay. So first book, this one, The Authorities. And this is an anthology. And what inspired me to write this book, in all honesty, was branding. Because look at who my co-authors were. Les Brown, Dr. John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And this is my publisher and my business coach, Raymond Aaron. So when you have, and he's a New York Times best-selling author. So when you have this kind of power behind you that, hey, I can write a book with these people, this was strictly for branding. So I wrote a chapter about financial literacy. That's what my chapter in this book is about, smart money management. And so then I think this book actually helped me to become authority, for me to be recognized as an authority. I think I was always an authority. You know, the difference between an expert and an authority is an expert, you know, and an authority, everybody else knows it. So that was my first book that was published last year. This book was released in October of 2018. And this is my second book, Plateau to Summit, The Ultimate Guide to Take Your Business to the Top. Now, what this book is about is where my real passion lies. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about starting your business. So if you wanted to do it yourself, this book can help you do it yourself. It's not going to give you all the hand-holding that you do when you get a done with you or somebody that actually walks you through it or do it for you. But it definitely will get you on the right track. You can follow it, and it takes you from beginning to end. It even includes a chapter on the exit strategy. How are you going to get out of this business if it doesn't work? How about if you want to get out of it, even if it does work? So, and what inspired me to write this book, as I said, I get people that come in all the time, all these entrepreneurs, and they want to start a business, but they just don't know how to start, what to do next. And they can't afford to have a consultant or a coach or an advisor come in and walk them through it, hold their hands. So I wrote the book to help those people. The people that I try to help in my workshops. Here's how we're going to get you from point A to point Z without all the twists and turns and ups and downs that I had to go through over 20 years. You know, I wish I knew the power of coaching and mentorship when I first started out. Instead, I had to spend 20 years figuring it out on my own. Well, 18 years until I decided, somebody told me, you really need to have a business coach. And I go, why do I need a business coach? That's what I do. I am the business coach.
Right.
But then I was convinced to try a business coach, and that changed the world for me. It changed my business. It changed everything because I was looking at things too narrowly in like a tunnel. I had tunnel vision for my business, but I had wide open vision for everybody else's business. And so if it's one thing that I could advise every business owner to do is to get a coach, get a mentor, even if it's a group, like a mastermind group or something, find somebody else that's going to help you take your business to the next level. And my newest book that's coming out, I'm writing it. It came from a particular pain here in my CPA office. It's Dead People Can't Sell Stock. And what it's about, it's actually a guide for getting your trust and estate set up for your death or for your life in case something happens to you before you die where you can't take care of it yourself. And it's to help you create your legacy and set up your trust so that everything passes the way you think it's going to. So it's a guide. And my goal is to have it finished by the end of the year.
I love it. Those are all such great tools for entrepreneurs to have in their toolkit. Tell me where people can find you and where people can find your books.
Okay, so here's a simple answer. UrsulaIsAmazing.com. That's a page that's going to get you to my CPA Garrett website. It'll get you connected with me at all of my social media sites. It will take you to Amazon to be able to purchase my book, UrsulaIsAmazing.com, and it has everything you ever wanted to know about me there. And maybe some things you didn't want to know.
but all things that you've approved, so it's okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me for the Align Women podcast today, Ursula. I really appreciate having you on. It's been delightful to talk with you. And please visit her website, UrsulaIsAmazing.com, because as you can see, she truly is amazing. Look for more episodes with more amazing women on the Align Women podcast at alignwomenpodcast.com. And Ursula, thanks again for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. I really enjoyed it.
Been delightful to have you. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Align Women podcast. You can find more episodes with more amazing women at alignwomenpodcast.com and visit alignwomen.org to learn more about our leadership and networking organization. This is Amy Evans, and you've been listening to the Align Women podcast.